Good evening. On the behalf of Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement, it gives me great pleasure to extend my warm welcome to the distinguished chair, fellow scholars, and participants who have joined us for this Zoom session and watching us live on the YouTube channel. We are thrilled to have you today at the International Youth Scholars Summit 2020. This international forum aims to bring together rigorous, erudite young scholars from all around the world over a single platform. The aim is to create an academic space to encourage young scholars and academicians from the field of international relations, political science, diplomacy, public policy, administration, and related subfields. The conference will be held for 3 days consecutively through 30 different sessions with 2 parallel sessions running in the White Room and the Green Room. The conference will feature 275 scholars, 25 countries who will be delivering their presentation and sharing the understanding with us. The session is streaming on our live YouTube channel, so please feel free to share it on your social media handle with the hashtag IYSS2020. With this 19th session of the conference and to chair and moderate the session, we have the honor to have Dr. Anjali Sehrawat with us today. Thank you for joining us, ma'am, today. Dr. Anjali Sehrawat is an assistant professor at Sushant University, India. Dr. Anjali is a dynamic personality who teaches politics and international relations to law students. Dr. Sehrawat has completed her MA at Center of Political Science, JNU, and MPhil and PhD from School of International Studies, JNU. She has worked for almost 4 years as a senior researcher from the QAIUP, Qatar Unified Imaging Project, with the University of Exeter, UK. Her area of specialization includes government and politics of India, political theory, theory and prospects of international relations, globalization, comparative politics, women issues, historical relations between Central Asia and India, Central Asia, government and politics of Kazakhstan. Thank you for having you on board with us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you for such kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. We are in session 19, which has a theme of understanding India in the International Young Scholars Summit 2020. So as we all know that there is a power transformation taking place in Asia, the apparent decline of US influence, and the emergence of China in the past decades, which has led to the changed dynamics. Especially in the time of COVID-19, we see that India is searching for a way to cope up with this situation. Since the start of the 21st century, India has been perceived as the next country to follow China in seeking a major power status. Although India has previously tended to conceal its power aspirations, in 2015, it declared its intentions to be a leading power. So we have varied papers in the session by various eminent scholars to discuss upon the role of India as a rising power and to understand India in the light of varied domains. So let me just elaborate on what are the requirements from all the scholars. So you all will be given only 8 minutes to speak, maximum 10 minutes. And we will take up questions only at the end of the session. So all the questions are invited in the chat box. So the first scholar who's going to present a paper is Ms. Smriti Singh Chauhan, who's a doctoral candidate at Amity University. He's going to be presenting on Modi-Morris Virtual Summit Opportunities in Post-COVID-19 Era.
Good evening to Dr. Anjali Sehrawat, the chair of the panel, and all the other fellow paper presenters. I'm presenting a paper, a particularly article over the Modi-Morris Virtual Summit Opportunities in the Post-COVID-19 Era. COVID-19 has impacted every aspect of our life, and even diplomacy is also not untouched. On the 4th June 2020, first virtual summit between Prime Minister Modi and Morris has been taken place. The two heads of governments were majorly focused on two main aspects. Firstly, the principles of democracy, and secondly, generating support for the region's rule-based maritime order. The focal point of the summit was to construct a growing defense ties and shared approach towards a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific region for people development. This summit has shaped a vision on an open, free, rules-based Indo-Pacific region that promotes prosperous, stable, and sovereign state on the basis of shared interest. If we talk about the historical background of bilateral relationship between Indo and Australian relationship, it has been always a roller coaster ride with a lot of ups and downs. Australian political will has always felt the lack of interest from the side of India, but the bilateral relationship has continued across both the governments despite being pulled down by failures on one or the other side. There are two major times in history when the Indo-Australian relationship reached its heights. First time in the 1970s and second in 1990s. In the 1970s, the Commonwealth heads of government meetings, and secondly in the 1990s, majorly on a personal basis with the close relationship of Prime Minister Bob Hawke and the Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. If we talk about the contemporary dimension of Indo-Australian relationship, there are a lot of initiatives in the last decade which have raised the expectation that both the countries work together in the Indo-Pacific region, the Free Trade Agreement, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and along with the anticipated the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies also. If the major landmarks, if we just go by the major landmarks in the bilateral, these are the certain major landmarks between the Indo-Australian bilateral relationship. But in the contrary, there has always been a lack of practical pathways. A lot of things has been done on the, in the terms of papers, in the terms of planning. But if we come to the practical aspects, there is always a lack of will from both the side of the governments. If we talk about the opportunities which has been created in the recent times, through ASEAN and its various bodies, Turnbull and the Modi agreed to strengthen the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. And at the United Nations, Australia always supported India as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Again, in 2017, in joint statement, the Prime Minister restated their support for continued nuclear cooperation and shelved at the time, but revived at the Morris meeting with the Honorable Indian President, Mr. Ramnath Kovind in Canberra in November 2018, has once again revived the Indo-Australian relationship a lot. A Verghese report, an Indian economic strategy to 2035, has seen as a key indicator for a fresh start for a bilateral relationship between Indo and Indo-Australia. If we focus on this particular virtual summit, which happened on 4th June 2020, there's a total 9 agreements were signed and announced. The first one, the joint statement on a comprehensive strategic partnership between Republic of India and Australia. Second, the joint declaration on shared vision of maritime cooperation in Indo-Pacific region. Then the framework arrangement on cyber and cyber-enabled critical technology cooperation, MOU on cooperation in the field of mining and processing of critical and strategic minerals, arrangement concerning the mutual logistic support, implementation of arrangement concerning the cooperation in defense and science and technology to the MOU on defense cooperation. Memorandum of understanding has also been signed on cooperation in the field of public administration and government reforms. MOU signed on the cooperation in vocational education and training, and memorandum of understanding on water resources management has been signed in the one of the One of the most essential outcomes of the summit has been the release of the joint statement on the comprehensive strategic partnership between the Republic of India and Australia. Another factor for deliberation concerning the comprehensive strategic partnership is how their evaluation of the nature of the Indo-Pacific region has been submerged with the understanding of the two nations on the COVID-19. There is a profound dedication on the both the sides to address the COVID-19 challenge, and the COVID-19 crisis become the foundation of greater science, technology, and research collaboration. This is one of a very major development of this particular virtual summit. With the comprehensive strategic partnership, the two nations have ensured that they have initiated the Australian-Indian Strategic Research Fund for new phase, and this particular fund supports the scientists of both the countries for working together and supports research collaboration in a different fields such as biomedical devices, astrophysics, agriculture, clean energy technologies, and astronomy. They have also agreed to enhance the prospects in areas of security, digital economy, and the critical emerging technologies for greater cyber resilience. The joint declaration on the shared vision of maritime cooperation in the Indo-Pacific is another outcome of the summit. The statement started in the enduring the interest of both the countries in a free, open, inclusive, and rule-based Indo-Pacific region by expressing concerns regarding non-traditional trade practices which are coherent with the international laws, such as smuggling, drugs, piracy, human trafficking, terrorism. Both the nations reflected their shared interest and ensured freedom of navigation and open sea lines for communication with the region. If we conclude the whole summit and the future prospects, the Indo-Australian Virtual Summit has marked as a milestone in Indian-Australian relationship, and the changing geopolitical state of affairs has progressively more pressed the two countries to obtain a new individualistic and non-dependent posture on the position and significance of dynamic regions like the Indo-Pacific in their strategic thinking. The mounting alliance between the two nations in the area of defense, science, and technology promises to support their relationship. Both the countries agreed to prolong their horizons and expand defense support by enhancing the capacity and complexity of their military exercises. More defense engagements to address shared security challenge in the Indo-Pacific region. It will amplify military dependability during the defense exercises and allow militaries of both the countries to utilize the basis for their disaster relief and humanitarian cooperation, port and passage exercise with the reciprocal approach. So this whole summit has contributed a lot towards the progression of the Indo-Australian relationship in the Indo-Pacific, whereas both the countries, as ma'am has mentioned in the beginning, that we are just here analyzing the situation, how the power is shifting and in the Indo-Pacific region. These two countries can play a very important role, and this summit has played a very important role. Thank you very much. I'm really sorry for the certain technical glitches.
Thank you, Smriti. So Smriti has just now elaborated on Modi-Morris Summit, which happened in June 2020. And she has also highlighted certain facts that how these two countries are cooperating to strengthen their ties. So all the questions relating to this paper are invited in the chat box. We'll have the discussion and we'll take the questions only at the end of the session. So the next in line who we have after Smriti is Dr. Anita Yadav and Shambhavi Srivastava.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so just a second. Yeah. So both of you are here to present?
Yes, ma'am.
So Dr. Anita is an assistant professor at the University of Delhi, and she is here with a student, and both of them are presenting the paper on analysis of India's Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, implications for South Asian neighbors.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. A very good evening to respected chair of this session, Anjali ma'am, my fellow participants and team members of Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement for giving me this opportunity to present in front of this August gathering. I, Dr. Anita Yadav, Assistant Professor from Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, along with my co-presenter, Ms. Shambhavi Srivastava, student from the same institution, has a great privilege and honor to present on the topic an analysis of Indian Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 and its implication for the South Asian neighborhood. So let me tell you the scheme of this presentation. So in this presentation, I will be dealing with the main object and feature of this Amendment Act. And I will also try to analyze the consistency of this act with the international law principle. Whereas my co-presenter, she will be specifically dealing with the Article 26 of International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights with the context of the nationality. And she will be also presenting the impact of this Amendment Act on the South Asian neighborhood with a special focus on Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. So friends, we all know that Indian legislature have passed this Citizenship Amendment Act recently in December 2019. And the main purpose of amendment of Act was that to amend the Citizenship Act 1955. It was not the first time when the Citizenship Act 1955 has been amended. It has been already 5 times has been amended, and this is the 6th time this amendment relating to the Citizenship Act 1955 has brought into the picture. But the problem is that this current Citizenship Amendment Act 2090 has created a lot of problem. As we all must have noticed through media and through newspaper and on the important to understand what are the main feature of this act. So in my presentation, I will be specifically focusing on the section 2 of this Amendment Act, which actually provides the person belonging to Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi or Christian community from 3 neighboring countries, which include Afghanistan, Bangladesh or Pakistan, who have entered into the India before 31st day of December or this 31st of the December 2014 shall not be treated anymore illegal migrant. So that was the main provision of this act. However, when we look into the amendment bill of 2016 along with the act, we have found that government have a very good intention to bringing this act by giving a protection to certain illegal migrants, and which is also supported by few of the report, by few of the fact-finding missions. For example, UN Human Rights Council in its reports, they have mentioned that how the minority situation in this country is poor, and not only the UN Human Rights Council report, but also there were various non-governmental international organizations which have also highlighted that minority condition is not very good in this country. So the intention of government looks very nice in the sense giving a protection to all this minority. But here one important thing I would like to bring in your notice, as I have already mentioned about section 2, it says it uses the word illegal migrant. And that's what it becomes very important to understand what is the difference between migrant and refugee. So as far as international literature are concerned, when we talk about the refugee, we can find the definition of refugee, which is given under Refugee Convention 1951. Apart from that, there are so many regional convention of the refugee. So the general understanding of refugee is that anyone due to having a well-founded prosecution based on certain ground, which also include the religion as a one of the ground. If they have left their country and they have all this which is given under the convention, they will be considered as a refugee. And when we compare this definition with the section 2 criteria, we found a lot of similarity, because it also says based on certain, it's also have the ground based on the religious persecution. And now after finding a lot of similarity, it appears that the government wanted to protect a certain category of refugee provided on that particular ground, that is the religious, based on the religious persecution. And if it is, if the government is willing to protect those selected kind of people, now the question comes, how far it will be consistent with the international law principle? Because if we look into the international law principle, there are few international law principles I'm going to focus in my presentation because of the paucity of the time. So the first international law principle is the non-refoulement principle, which have attained the status of a customary international law. So non-refoulement principle is a principle which actually prohibit to any country to send back to, the refugee who have entered into their country and who have a well-founded fear if they will return their country or their habitual residence, their life will be in danger. And again, the ground is given. I'm not mentioning in very detail. So non-refoulement principle is not only recognized in Article 33 of the Refugee Convention, but also non-refoulement principle has been recognized in various international law treaty also. But of course, in context to the, that particular treaty. For example, the Convention on Torture also recognized the non-refoulement principle, but based on the torture aspect. And there was so many court also which have declared that non-refoulement principle have attained the status of customary international law. And since it has attained the principle of customary international law, even though India have not signed the Refugee Convention 1951, it is obliged. And if we see the main objective of this act, we don't find that it is consistent with the principle of the non-refoulement principle. Now, the second principle which I wanted to focus here is a non-discrimination norm. So when we talk about the non-discrimination norm in international literature, it is such a basic element which is not only described in the respective national law, but also in international convention also, starting from a UN charter also. It's also prohibit the discrimination. You take the example of UDHR, there are a lot of articles which, prohibit the discrimination. And the most important, Article 26 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And here I would like to give the floor to my co-presenter, Ms. Shambhavi. She will be discussing in detail Article 26 of ICCPR with the context to the nationality. Over to you, Shambhavi.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? I think I am. Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Yes. So as Anita ma'am highlighted that there has been an inconsistency between the terms illegal migrants and refugees in the Citizenship Amendment Act and how it pertains to the non-discrimination norm in the international legal sphere. I would like to make it a little bit more specific by focusing on Article 26 of the ICCPR. Now, Article 26 of the ICCPR is framed in a manner almost identical to Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, that is equality before law and equal protection of law. Now, a state's right to determine its jurisdiction and who its nationals are is a recognized principle in international law. Because, of course, the sovereignty of the state matters the most in international legal forums. However, when we look at Article 26, we can there have been a lot of commentaries by the Human Rights Council as well, and various jurists have written on this as well, that Article 26 of the ICCPR is more or less autonomous in nature. That is, it applies beyond the rights that are given in the ICCPR, that is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Therefore, India is obviously a party to the ICCPR. That is a very well-known fact. So it is obligated to follow Article 26. But in terms of nationality, as well, it is obligated to follow because again, it's an autonomous norm. Right. Furthering the argument that Article 26 is applicable on nationality issues, which include citizenship issues of a nation, um, it may be argued that the applicability of Article 26 on these issues is questionable, because treaties that usually deal with nationality concerns have specific provisions regarding the same. But there are at least two reasons why we argue that this may not be the case. Because if we look at the preparatory documents of the ICCPR before it became a covenant, the Travaux Preparatoires, if we look at that, then there is no indication that Article 26 should not deal with nationality concerns. Furthermore, the Human Rights Committee has noted the applicability of the article uh, in the context of sex-based discrimination to matters of naturalization. Uh, Naturalization, because Citizenship Amendment Act deals with that particular aspect specifically. So the HRC has noted the applicability on sex-based discrimination. Now, obviously, sex-based discrimination is not in the purview here, but we use it an as an example that if Article 26 is applicable to naturalization issues in context of sex-based discrimination, then religion, which is a basis given in ICCPR itself, why should it not apply to nationality concerns in context of religion-based discrimination? So that is the argument that we put forward, that Article 26 uh, forwards a non-discrimination norm that India must follow in context of uh, its citizenship issues. And as Anita ma'am said, that non-discrimination norm has arguably acquired the status of not only customary international law, but also that of a peremptory norm of international law, that is jus cogens norm. Yes. Um, After dealing with this part, I would like to move on to how this particular enactment, the Amendment Act, has impacted India's relationship with its South Asian neighbors, particularly the countries that have been mentioned in the Act, that are Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. So,
Shambhavi, I give you only 5 minutes more to conclude. So we had given only 8 minutes to each panelist. So you've been given much more because you're two people presenting. So just take 5 minutes to conclude.
yes, ma'am. I'll try to complete as soon as possible. Yes. So moving ahead with India's relationship with Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan post CA, um, as my co-presenter specified, that the objective of the government in enacting this act may still be positive. It is, of course, positive because it gives a legal status to the asylum seekers that are living in India, to illegal migrants who have been living in deplorable conditions. So it brings them under the purview of law. But still, as owing to the previous discussion, we can conclude that it is not following the non-discrimination norm. So there are some problems with the act itself. These problems have impacted India's relationship with the three countries. Uh, because it does not make much diplomatic or strategic sense as such. Focusing particularly on Pakistan, India's relationship with Pakistan has been sour for a very long time, with very little periods of cooperation. But it has been jittery for the most part, and enacting CA does not steer this relationship in the direction of cooperation. Rather, it underscores the zero-sum mentalities that both the countries have adopted. So while we should be working on improving our relationships with our neighbors, this all that this act has done is led to further souring of our relationship with Pakistan. So that's what I have to say in context of Pakistan. The actual casualties of this enactment, I would say, are the India-Afghanistan and India-Bangladesh bilateral connections. Because if we see historically that the Afghans who have been in opposition to Pakistan's repetitive interference in their internal matters have naturally gravitated towards India. There are a lot of historical and cultural connections between Afghanistan and India. uh, it has led to India having uh, some soft power in the minds of the people. People there use Indian products, they watch Bollywood movies. But this goodwill that we have because of our historical and cultural connections, the CA substantially harms this. And it harms the ability to win the hearts and minds of the people of another country, which plays a major role in any bilateral relationship between two states. Then I would say that a more perilous mistake is giving rise to friction between India and Bangladesh, which have historically been good partners since 1971. Um, of course, this does not mean that minorities are not discriminated in these nations. And
If you may please conclude, Shambhavi.
yes, of course. Uh, yes, this does not mean that minorities are not discriminated against, but what both Anita ma'am and I have tried to portray is that there could have been better strategies. Maybe diplomatic channels could have been used, but rather enacting a legislation in a different country altogether uh, on matters of on internal matters of three different countries, of course, would lead to like souring of relationships, and it is harmful to India's long-term geopolitical interests. However well Indian government's intentions might be. That's it. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you, Dr. Anita and Shambhavi. Indeed, a very interesting paper presentation by both of you, highlighting the important features of Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 and India's diplomatic relationship with its neighboring region. So we'll take up the other paper. The next in line who we have is, it's Mr. Arnav Anshuman. He's a master's student at University of Delhi, and he will be elaborating on neighborhood relations, sports diplomacy.
Hello, ma'am. Am I clear?
Yes, Peter.
Okay, just sharing my presentation. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Arnav Anshuman, and I've completed my master's from geography from Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi, India. And during my time at master's, I worked extensively in the field of sports geography, where I found that sport has applications in several other fields as well. And while going through the literature, geopolitics and sport was an important theme that recurred several times, and which has also inspired me to look into sports diplomacy and international relations. Hence, the topic is titled as Sports Diplomacy in India and Nepal Relationship, and it's based on my observation and understanding of sports. So this presentation is divided into 5 segments.
Arnav, if you can, increase the size of your PPT, you can choose the option of present now.
Okay, I can find it here. Present now. Is this okay? Yeah. I think so. Yeah, so this presentation is divided into 5 segments in which we begin with the importance and potential of sports and how diplomacy is a major part of it. We then look at how sport has facilitated diplomacy throughout ancient and modern times, where we look at the present context of Russia and Korea, which serves as an example for India and Nepal to follow. Further, we will discuss the sport and cultural ties between India and Nepal through the case studies of popular Nepalese sporting figures such as SANDEEP, LAMICHHANE and GIRI. In the end, we will look into the future aspects of sports development and potential areas of diplomacy through adventure sports in Nepal. So as you all know that sport is a global language. It is known to bring people from varied backgrounds and showcases unity. Race, religion, nationalities, ethnicities, they all take a backseat when sport is in play. The impact of sport is much beyond the stadiums or arenas it is played. Hence, it acts as a crucial juncture for diplomacy. This feature of sport has been seen in the ancient Olympics as well, which is known as Olympic truce. So Olympic truce was a situation where countries who took part in the Olympics refrained from attacking each other while the sport was into play. The modern Olympics reflect similar connotations, which is evident from the logo itself. The rings signify coming together of continents, the dove represents peace, the flame represents human spirit, and the colorful sparkles describe the people of various races, ethnicities, and nationalities. Recent examples include the FIFA World Cup 2018, which was held in Russia, which was also called as an attempt by the Russian authority to promote its image and emerge from the setbacks it had received in Ukraine and Kiev. Another remarkable example is from the Winter Olympics in 2018 held in South Korea. This event was marked as an important discourse between the two countries who have been at war with each other for the last 70 years. The North Korean contingent visited South Korea and took part in the sport events and eventually represented themselves as unified Korea during the opening ceremony. These are amongst a few examples that which could act as lessons for India and Nepal as well. And this is something that is not difficult for India and Nepal, who share already so much in common. We have similar culture, ways of living, festival traditions, and we have this throughout centuries. We just need to uphold that sport is another form of mass culture, because not just traditional cultures, we share similar sporting cultures as well, with cricket, football, and athletics being amongst the most popular sport in both the countries. We exist as powerhouses in sporting field in South Asia, and there is so much scope for further development. Sports diplomacy can be used in this context to cement the relationship between India and Nepal. Now I'll be giving two examples. The first one of SANDEEP, who happens to be the first Nepalese cricketer to have played in the Indian Premier League. His remarkable performance earned praises and brought the two countries together. Another example is of the Russian-born Dutch chess grandmaster Anish GIRI, who shares his paternal ties to Nepal and maternal ties to India. During the COVID-19 lockdown, he retorted to online chess streaming along with his Indian counterpart Vijit Gujarati, and made the digital platform of YouTube an arena of engagement between the fans of the two countries. So from these examples, we can see that sport diplomacy for India and Nepal wouldn't be as difficult, because people-to-people contact are already set in place. We just need due diligence from the concerned authorities. Now, moving forward to the last section of the presentation, I would like to focus on these two pictures. The commonality between these two is of the adventurous sport of skiing, but there is one stark difference. One picture is from Nepal and the other one is from Switzerland. And as you can see, it is very hard to differentiate between the two landscapes. And to be very honest, even I don't remember which one is which. The purpose of this comparison is to show that the potential of Nepal as an international destination for tourism. And while Mount Everest has been serving this purpose for a long time, it is the correct time to expand adventure sports like skiing, rock climbing, bungee jumping, paragliding, to mention a few. Also, sport exchange programs between the two countries can be undertaken, where India can help through infrastructure in football, cricket, and athletics, while Nepal can provide mountaineering schools to Indians. This is possible only through mutual collaborations, where Nepal's pristine geographic features will continue to attract visitors, while India can provide customers and transit route to Nepal. From all the above examples and suggestions, it is quite evident that sport diplomacy can be used as an effective tool to enhance mutual cooperation. While diplomatic factors will always be at play, sport can provide an additional corridor for better cross-cultural linkages and improved relations, and to cement the ties between India and Nepal. A proper link needs to be established based on sports trial to facilitate better inter-country migration and people-to-people contacts. Now, in conclusion, as Indians, we have had several conflicts with Nepal, both on the borders and on the international forums. But whenever a sport match is played between the two countries, it is always conducted in harmony and mutual respect for one another. It is this quality of sport that reflects true human spirit and binds people together. And sports can be seen in this way as a realm of mutual cooperation. And India and Nepal, having tremendous zeal and sporting talent, could benefit from each other with productive engagement between the two countries. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnav. Indeed, a very interesting paper presentation by you. I've never attended any conference where I have heard such interesting paper about sports diplomacy. Actually, that's the need of the day, and that's the need of the hour, which we must say. And you've highlighted that how India-Nepal diplomacy, can be taken forward with sports. And sports is one thing which unites all of us. So certainly we'll take up the questions at the end of the session. So I invite all the questions relating to this particular paper in the chat box. So the next in line we have Sarthak Katyal.
Yes, thank you,
So
sir.
Sarthak is a master's student at Jamia Millia Islamia, and he will be presenting his paper on soft power in India's space diplomacy.
Yeah.
Welcome,
I
Sarthak.
hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, Sarthak, but you're not visible.
Yeah, there is some malfunction with the camera of this laptop. So my sincere apologies for that. I'll just share my screen for the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Before beginning, I would like to take this moment to thank and congratulate Dr. Pramod Jaiswal and the whole team of NICE for pulling up this commendable initiative of Young Scholar Summit and bringing young scholars together to speak on different topics of imperative concerns. I'm going to speak on soft power and India's space diplomacy. And given the paucity of time and without delving into the technicalities related with space, I'll try to make it very brief. Soft power, as coined by Joseph S. Nye Jr., it's basically the ability of to persuade other countries to do what you want without the use of force. It co-opts people rather than coerce them, as in the language of Nye. And it takes relatively longer to be built due to the intangible elements. It tends to change the party's attitude to end where it acts in a way which is different to its usual behavior. And in a longer term, it appears to be more suited to the contemporary world order than the hard power. And soft power and relevance of space. In 21st century, role of science and technology has been gaining prominence as an additional basis for generating soft power influence. Amongst the various stems of technologies, space technology has emerged central vis-a-vis soft power status. States have now understood the direct relation between the technological feats and global prestige that follows. And especially nations like India have understood that space is a socio-economic enabler and could also act as a catalyst for advocating states' foreign policy vision in this digital age. When it comes to space, there exists a vast gap amongst space haves and space have-nots. Hence, expertise in rocket science puts a state on a higher pedestal than the countries who are still struggling in this particular domain. Expertise in rocket science ensues significant strategic implications given the dual usage applications, and the output delivered by the space technology has noteworthy social and economic relevance with a massive growth potential. A little brief about Indian space program with relevance to soft power. So, in a broadening concept of security that encompasses other dimensions such as economic, environmental, and political, Indian space program has been distinctive and lucid in the way it simultaneously addresses the requirement of the Indian citizenry and the state collectively in all these dimensions. So, despite being challenged by numerous embargoes and technology denial regimes, especially the NTCR sanctions on India that were imposed during the Cold War, India's space program has emerged as the most cost-effective and successful space program in the world. Indian space program used space as crucial mechanism to lift its people out of poverty through education and social and economic programs. The initiatives like SITE and ARISE are case in point. And with the course of time, India's space policy has become an intrinsic part of India's foreign policy to strengthen India's position amongst other southern Asian neighbors and other developing nations. Soft power in India's space diplomacy. India's space program has been seen making efforts, in projecting soft power, which is especially evident through its new commitment to planetary exploration and human spaceflight. Initially, the whole Indian space program was introduced based on a developmental rationale, but now it has moved to the planetary exploration and the human spaceflight paradigm. The Chandrayaan-1 and Mangalyaan-1 mission demonstrates that India now looks at space as a standard of global standing. India's growing influence on the global space economy has been an indication of its changing stature in the international arena. India's soft power has witnessed a progression with an increasingly successful participation in global space economy through ISRO's commercial arm Antariksh Corporation. India has also been involved in the capacity building initiatives and has successfully established itself as a leader in terms of healthcare provisions through satellite-based telemedicine. A non-profit Indian organization named Apollo Telemedicine Networking Foundation has been involved in telemedicine services with dedicated centers in Iraq, Yemen, Kazakhstan, and Myanmar. India has also assisted countries like Colombia in launching its satellites, which gave a major boost to India-Colombia relations. And this particularly had a spillover effect too. If you see, many Latin American countries are often dependent on the US for space and military matters. However, after the launch, many countries like Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, amongst others, were reported to reach out to ISRO for launching or developing their satellites. India's PSLV also launched Israel's Texas satellite in 2008 for remote sensing purpose, which boosted the political and strategic relations with Israel. For India, a country like India, which was once a recipient of space technology from developed countries, India has now demonstrated the robustness of its own space program by setting up joint projects and even providing assistance in the times of disaster. Case in point is when ISRO's OceanSat-2 satellite helped monitor Hurricane Sandy and helped the authorities to implement timely disaster mitigation and rescue strategies. ISRO has also launched dozens of satellites for US, Europe, and Britain-based companies. For example, British reconnaissance satellites, Novasar and S-14. And if you see, after the Brexit, the dispute over Britain's continued access to European Union's Galileo satellite navigation project will inevitably lead Britain to look out for other alternatives. And here, India's space ambitions could offer a tempting proposition within the ambit of a wider bilateral cooperation. ISRO also took another capacity building initiative called Unnati, under which ISRO planned to train 45 countries in making nanosatellites. Coming closer to home, India proposed a SARC satellite in 2014 for the overall development of the region, but this proposal couldn't materialize as Pakistan backed off at the last moment from the proposal. However, 3 years later, in 2017, ISRO launched the South Asian Satellite, or GSAT-9, to help India's neighboring countries in space communication. The idea behind South Asia Satellite was to avoid any political impediment, which was earlier the case with SARC satellite. And this positive spillover effect of the satellite's launch on India's neighborhood first diplomacy was well demonstrated by the warm responses given by the leaders of South Asian countries. India's space diplomacy with neighbors also extends on a bilateral basis. In Afghanistan, India included remote sensing satellite transmitters for acquiring satellite-based data on a bilateral basis. So concluding, while I conclude, I would say it is important to address the elephant in the room, and the fact that the rise of China as an emerging superpower is backed with its economic and military might leaves less avenues for other developing nations such as India to contest China. But however, soft power opens other dimensions and other places for countries like India to maneuver. India has utilized space as a tool of its soft power effectively in order to expand its diplomatic clout, and that the space has brought numerous achievements to the country. It is expected to remain an essential element for future course of India's foreign policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarthak, for putting up such a nice and interesting paper across. So you, as rightly put up by you and also concluded by you, that we see China as a hard power. So, so certainly, when it comes to India, we can display our power in terms of soft diplomacy, which you have rightly demonstrated that can be, through space diplomacy, or as Anshuman has demonstrated, has elaborated in his paper, that can be through sports as well. So, soft power is certainly the need of the day. It remains an intangible element of power, but that's what the need for the contemporary world order is. So thank you, Sarthak. We'll take up the questions for your paper at the end of the session. So all the questions for Sarthak are invited in the chat box. So the next in line who we have is Mr. Tahir Rashid Bhatt. He's a PhD candidate at Kashmir University, India. He will be elaborating on employing soft power strategy, a study of post 9/11 Indian policy engagement in Afghanistan. Welcome, Tahir. Tahir, you are not audible. You are not audible, Tahir. Tahir, if you can disconnect and reconnect. I think you need to give permission to your computer to give access to the audio, to use the speaker and audio of your system. We still can't hear you, Tahir. Do you have any other device with which you can connect? Maybe your phone? Tahir, we can't hear you. Tahir, you need to give access to your computer audio and speaker. I think that you need to do in the settings. Or if you can log in from some other device. Please remove your headphones and try to rejoin the meeting. Tahir, unmute yourself. Tahir, you need to unmute yourself. Tahir, you need to unmute yourself. Unmute. Shruti, if you can call him and find out what's the problem, because I think he needs to unmute himself now.
Any issues? Sorry, I was not there on the table.
So I think Tahir is having some connectivity issue. We cannot hear him.
Okay, Tahir, sorry, he got disconnected, so he's not co-host. Yes, Tahir, now you can unmute yourself. Anyone else who is there, who is the speaker but not made co-host?
Okay.
Okay, Tahir, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Sir, shall I speak?
Yes, please, Tahir.
Okay, ma'am. Are you listening to me now?
Yes,
Is it
yes,
audible?
very, very much audible.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm very much thankful to the NICE, and I'm very much jubilant and indebted that I have been made part of this very august summit, that is the Young Scholar Summit by the NICE. I'm very honored and privileged. And I'm especially very thankful to Professor Pramod sir, who gave me this golden opportunity to present my paper. I'd be, ma'am, speaking on the employing software strategy, a study of post 9/11 Indian policy engagement in Afghanistan. Ma'am, as we know that India is aspiring and a leading power, and this is how India tries to consolidate its position in the entire South Asia, consolidating its political, diplomatic, economic position in the entire South Asia. And for that, all the foreign policy makers are trying their level best to actually engage with all the South Asian neighbors, especially its immediate neighbors, and so far as our extended neighbors are concerned. And for that very reason, I think the foreign policy analysts are trying their level best to actually employ soft power approach as a mechanism by projecting India's rich culture, by projecting India's rich geography, by projecting India's rich religions, by projecting India's culture, its cultural values, all so far as all these South Asian nations are concerned. And we have a very interesting book written by Professor Shashi Tharoor. He writes in one of his recent books, that's Pax Indica, that India can be a major power. It can become a major power by not only engaging in politics and in trade, but if it can actually, it can leverage more weightage by sharing its culture, by sharing its values, by sharing its benign foreign policy, by not just only by trade and politics. We can share technology, indigenous knowledge, a popular theater, popular cinema that we have. So this is how India can actually become a a leading power and an aspiring power. And for that very reason, I think the place where we have invested a lot so far as our soft power is concerned, and that is Afghanistan. So in my research, I have taken Afghanistan as a state where India has actually tried its level best to project its soft, and surely that Afghanistan would be a place where uh, we could actually generate a lot of goodwill among the people. And definitely, since many polls, these public opinion polls were conducted in Afghanistan, and there we have seen that there is a more favorability towards India. People of Afghanistan do favor India because of our rich culture, because of our rich heritage, because of our benign foreign policy with Afghanistan. And so far as India's aid and reconstruction is concerned, so far as India's soft policy engagement with Afghanistan is concerned, we have done a lot. We have done a lot in terms of reconstruction, in terms of infrastructure building in Afghanistan. We have built the parliament building. We have built the Salma Dam in the Herat province of Afghanistan. There is a 218 kilometers long highway that was built by India, that has connected the vast geographies of Afghanistan. And apart from that, we have also tried to build the connectivity so far as Chabhar port is concerned. Chabhar port would be a kind of a connectivity that would connect India to the entire the Central Asian region, that is Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and other states, other Central Asian states. So Indian this soft power credentials must be extended not only to Afghanistan but to the other nations as well. But so far as Pakistan is concerned, I think the Pakistan has bedeviled South Asia's economic development and regional economic development. It has constrained economic and security linkages. It has tried to limit India's geostrategic reach to the northeast. So that's one of the reasons that India had to actually build the Chabhar port for its connections to the Central Asia, because India is still deficient in the energy sector. So we want to gain access to energy from the Central Asian region. So Afghanistan could be a viable a connecting part so far as India is concerned. And we do share a very progressive vision of a very peaceful Asia. If we look into the foreign policy era of the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, he had a very important vision so far as to make South Asia a very peaceful region. He had a holistic vision of connectivity, of connecting the entire South Asia. Because if we look in terms of connectivity, physical connectivity, India is least connected with all its neighbors. So he had a vision that let's have breakfast in Amritsar, let's have lunch in Lahore, and one could have dinner in Kabul. So if that is possible, if that vision is possible, if we could make it possible, then South Asia could be actually a peaceful region. So this was this was how the vision of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. He had this kind of a holistic spatial vision in mind. And even India continues to support Afghanistan in terms of that. India, through all the diplomatic and geostrategic support behind Afghanistan, to become the member of to become a full-fledged member of the SARC. So this is how in 2014 then Afghanistan actually became the member of the SARC. So India has a very proactive role. India has proved a very proactive role so far as leveraging its soft power credentials in Afghanistan are concerned. So India is playing a very developmental and a very reconstructive role in the construction of the war-ravaged country. And it has sent some alarm bells ringing in the political establishment of Pakistan, because Pakistan perceives the role of India in Afghanistan as a kind of an encirclement in its strategic backyard. And there are some Western analysts who do actually look at this very kind of this structural problem, and this might be a new zero-sum game there in Afghanistan, and there would be a kind of a tussle between India and Pakistan, and it would actually turn into a kind of a new geostrategic new great game in Afghanistan, because we have some there is a kind of an axis, Pakistan-China axis is going on in Afghanistan, because both these players on the chessboard do not want to, rather they want to hinder the role of India. They want to hinder. They are not actually. They are not digesting. I would say they are not digesting the way India is trying to play a very beneficial and a very benevolent role for the people of Afghanistan, for the people of Afghanistan. And there is another important dimension to it, that is that India wants to contain the kind of an extremism and fundamentalism which stems from Afghanistan, not only from Afghanistan and also from Pakistan as well, which can actually, I would say, which has certain implications on Kashmir as well, because if you actually look at the foreign policy of Pakistan, I mean, they do have a policy like that bleed India by 1,000 cuts. They go actually for this cross-border terrorism. They send infiltrators to Kashmir and try to destabilize Kashmir. They try to destabilize India, and Pakistan wants to give access, a ballooning access to all the fundamentalists all across India. So they have been actually, successful in trying to destabilize, India. And now, what's more important is that we need to look into the kind of a new trajectory that is opening up, that's unfolding in Afghanistan. That's after the post US withdrawal in Afghanistan, since America is in a phase of retrenchment. America is going back home. America no longer wants to engage, because we have seen certain cracks in the liberal international order. There is more assertiveness and more belligerence of China, not only in South Asia but in other parts of the world, in the Indo-Pacific, so far as its Belt Road initiative is concerned, so far as OBOR is concerned. So India does feel that there are certain indications for India that yes, the amount of the amount of aid diplomacy, the amount of reconstruction work that India had done in Afghanistan, it might be undermined by, it might be, stopped by the China-Pakistan axis in Afghanistan. So even there were many Indian personals were targeted, Indian embassies were targeted in Afghanistan. So there is another important dimension to it, that why does Indian foreign policy lack in terms of its strategic thought? That why don't India why doesn't India have a strong strategic position by employing military, or by making a military bases in Afghanistan, rather by putting boots on the ground, because at many times Indian personnel and Indian embassies were actually attacked by were attacked by Pakistani political establishment. So this is how this trajectory is unfolding. So India must use another version of not only employing soft power but also amount of hard power, and India must try to combine both the elements of this soft power and hard power, and which actually then gives us in the words of Joseph Nye, that smart power. So this is how India can actually leverage smartly. India has to act smartly so far as Afghanistan is concerned. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tahir, for another interesting paper which you have presented. We have had a diverse set of papers from all the scholars. So Tahir has highlighted that how a combination of both soft power as well as the hard power, which we call as smart power, is required to to deal the India's foreign to deal. Basically, he's highlighting the lack of India's strategic position in foreign diplomacy. So the need of the hour, according to him, he says, is that where there should be a combination of both soft power as well as the hard power.
All right.
Yes. So any other question, any question which we have for any of the panelists here? So it's a question from Shambhavi Srivastava, and whosoever is comfortable in answering this question can take up this question. So she says that it has never been India's ethos in international relations to participate in military alliances or intervene military in other states' affairs. I think that's why we haven't been able to play a major role till now. But considering that you mentioned soft power, how do you think that we can reconcile the Afghani and the Indian ideologies? I think it's mentioned that it's for Mr. Tahir Bhatt.
Yes, ma'am. Please, could you repeat the question?
So Shambhavi is saying that India has never it has never been that India's ethos in international relations to participate in military alliances or intervene militarily in other states' affairs. So she's wanting to know that why haven't we been able to play a major role till now, and but considering that you've mentioned soft power in your paper analysis, how do you think that we can reconcile the Afghani and the Indian ideologies?
Yes, I mean, so far as the question is concerned, so far as Indian foreign policy is concerned, we have foreign policy actually has to look so far as systemic factors are concerned. So far as the systemic factors are concerned, India needs to look into the systemic factors of international affairs, because international politics is in a kind of a whirlwind. We do witness a kind of an order which is not favorable for India, Now, we must have a kind of an agenda setting. What Joseph Nye also writes in one of his books, Soft Power, the Success in the World Politics, that a nation must have an agenda setting. It's not simply by saying that we won't intervene or we won't stabilize or we won't defend or intimidate other states, and we would just remain within our geography. We will be very much defensive. In order to be a strong power, in order to demonstrate power, one has to show a kind of an belligerence, rather by showing power. By applying power or by demonstrating power, India can become a structural power. It's not only that India has to be a smart power, India has to demonstrate smart power, hard power, and soft power. There is another version of power that's called as structural power, that India must have the capacity to defend, to deny, to control the finances beyond the geography. This is that's how we are now in a kind of a situation whereby we are facing the China-centric vision of the world politics, and it's only possible that the way the China has internally as well as externally been extremely strong in terms of economy and military modernization. And this is what the debacle we faced in 1962. that we were in a kind of an idealistic state of power. We had Nehruvian idealism that yes, now all the nations are our friendly nations, and this is how the debacle of 1962 happened, and we had to face a lot of problems the way China attacked us in 1962.
So we have another paper presentation, so I'm so sorry to cut you short. I think Shambhavi, you got your answer. So he's highlighted that how India needs to, be a structural power. So India needs to, work on its knowledge capacity, finance, and that is how India can become a structural power. So let's have the other panelist, the last panelist, Aditi Chakravarti. She's a student, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and she will be making a paper presentation on COVID-19 and religion in South Asia.
So thank you so much. Last time I missed it, my audio was not working, and thank you so much for giving me the floor again. And this is Aditi Chakravarti from Dhaka, Bangladesh, and I am working as a research assistant in University of Dhaka. So here I am working on how does COVID-19 reignite Islamophobia, and here is my slides. So I just want to make a follow up on my main concepts. That's first is that Islamophobia, and Islamophobia as a word is a neological and which actually translates to an aversion toward Islam. Edward Said actually in 1978 he wrote one book, and on that book he talked about Orientalism, and this Orientalism actually the main theme of Orientalism was that subtle and persistence of Eurocentric prejudice against Arab Islamic people. So on that time the terms was different and the system was different, but after that after 9/11 the Islamophobia has transmitted in the different way toward the Muslim and the psychology of hatred Muslims. So in 1997 again the one counter report came out that's called Islamophobia, a challenge for us all. So this was the first time in the 20th century and in the modern time this ideological clash on religion started. And next I just want to touch Hindu ultra-nationalism. This is we also know that patriotism is a very good concept, and that is very good. It's after the Westphalian Treaty that came out, nationalism concept. But ultra-nationalism is also part of. We have seen that Germany's system of Nazi, systematic collaborations and systematic clashes. So in India, that's we can make it connected with the layman's idea, two strategic ideas. He said that colonialism, where the religion spread by the colonial conquest, and religious leaders also work to throw out the colonial powers. And second is that evangelical and fundamentalist religious spread by the mass following. And third, I would like to contact, this is very important, which is very touching because of my paper, and I would like to link the concepts in my paper. In the whole paper I will connect with all of this. In India, first case in 13 January 2020 and in Kerala. So after that, in March 4, only 22 new cases came out, and among them 14 people are infected who were actually from Italian tourist groups. And 27 people also get affected by the Sikh preachers, and by these Sikh preachers almost 40,000 people are get quarantined in 20 villages. And on March 31 a Tabligh Jamaat held, and from there almost 4,000 people get affected and came as positive. And May 13 1,225 people came as a positive positive report, who actually returned from the Sikh temples Hazur Sahib. So, and next one is Ram Yatra. It's a Hindu religious festival that was actually held in June. So and in only Odisha government has made a test, almost 5,000 people, and 2,000 people are actually become positives. So that's important for my paper. So I actually use the pragmatic theory, how India's theory and facts are working together, and here all the reports are taken from national and international newspapers. So Islamophobia in India. So let me talk about the history little bit, and that is theory of two nations. That actually makes two country, India and Pakistan, where the two countries were breed based on religion. So there is a Eurocentric concepts also, the good brother and bad brother. So good brother is run by Hindu nations and Hindu peoples, and bad brother is run by Muslim states. This is Eurocentric ideas also worked in India Pakistan relations to be bad. So it's said that in 2002 the Gujarat riot was the most visible India's Hindu-Muslim clash. So in 2002, almost 1,044 people were killed. Among them, 790 people are Muslim, and unofficially it is said that almost 2,000 people are killed. But government data says something different. And almost many people, anonymously people are missing. So and after that Gujarat riot, I think BJP came in the government in 2014, and before that Narendra Modi has made a lot of speech where he talked about in his campaign. So in Patna and other states, he's used some good words on Hindu Muslim togetherness. But after coming in the power, the oath has changed, and the manifesto has changed the actions. So in that time under BJP government, there is a few ideas came out, and there is a common instance of Islamophobia in India. So I have given one picture here. So this picture actually shows that how the Islamophobia works in India. So the meat eater bias. So among the about to the one report, that report actually talks about how India's peoples actually think that meat eaters are bad Muslims and bad people. So violent cow protection in India, one report, it's published in 2019, and they actually reveals that among 2016 to between 2016 to 2018 there are 44 people are killed, and because all of they are actually engaged with the cow slaughtering business. And second is that segregation of religion. So this is basically area based. The peoples who are living in Delhi, Purani Delhi, Jamia Nagar, these peoples are separated. They feel that these peoples are not safe. These areas are not safe because these areas are Muslim majority places. Third is that you are not like the other Muslims. So this is very common I think lines for the Muslims of India. They actually listen. It's a long time, lot of. And because the privileged Muslims sometimes have to hear that you are not like the other Muslims. And second and fourth is that saffronization of the country. Saffronization is the most like that, imposing Hindu nationalism idea to other. So this current government has built a one regime who is actually spews the actually impose
Aditi, I request you to
hateness
wind up.
on my of RSS.
Aditi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I give you only 2-3
Yes.
minutes to, yes, please wind up. Continue, please.
Okay. So government actions and laws on Article 3370 CAA and Delhi riots. So all of these are connected to idea that Islamophobia actually works in India. So I just want to show one data that Pew Research Center actually introduced two ideas. That's a restriction index and SASI, who is actually Social Hostilities Index. So in India in 2017 GRI was 4.8, and 2016 that was 5.1. That is very high rate. And in SASI 2007 it was 8.8, and in 2016 it was 9.7. And so COVID-19 and Islamophobia, there's a actually the media plays a very strong role here to provide to make the title of Corona bombs to Muslims. So actually one MLA in April actually quote and unquote, keep one thing in mind, I am telling everyone openly, no one should purchase vegetables from Muslims. So this is a psychological process, how the BJP government is making people concerned about the a vegetable vendors religion important. So they are making ideas of Corona jihad, and they are imposing that idea to the Muslims. So all the Muslims are getting threatened by the concepts. And health discrimination is a Gujarat hospital, one government run hospital has made one statement that, and they also discriminated the patients, and they have separated the Hindu and Muslim patients differently. And they, when the journalists ask them why you are doing all of these stuffs, so then the doctors of the hospital says that that is government rules, so they can't answer all of these stuffs, all of these questions. So so I think so that's actually data and facts says that India is erasing her level of democracy gradually, the secularism's idea, so, and casting off from the democracy gradually. So when the all of questions are coming toward to the BJP government, the BJP Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of India has tweeted one thing in 19th April 2020, that COVID does not see any race, religion, color, caste, creed, language, and border before striking. Our response and conduct thereafter should attach primacy to continue to unity and brotherhood. We are in together. So all of these are actually to confront, to counter these ideas. He just tweeted it, but actually fact shows something different, that how India's Muslims are being discriminated by for their religion, and which is actually out of secularism ideas. So and I think this is also against the article of 14 of the India's constitution, and this psychology of Muslim phobia and Muslim hatred actually increasing in every layer from vegetable shop to high level. So I think that that's to provide that COVID-19, where everybody is threatened by their life and by their living stuff. So but COVID-19 has increased this Islamophobia in India in a great way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aditi, for this interesting paper presentation. Yes, so now I think all the panelists have presented. So we may now conclude. If anyone is having any questions, so we'll quickly take in like a minute or so. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. So this is a question to Aditi. What is the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh? What is the condition of minorities there?
Okay, so here minorities peoples are they are using their rights here under this government. So this government is mostly secular. So we actually, I am also Hindu, so I'm not facing any problems, and surroundings me, everybody is getting their life okay, and good jobs, actually what they deserve. So it's okay now.
So Aditi herself is a Hindu, and she says that, you know, the position, she finds Bangladesh comparatively a secular country than India. So let me just, you know, highlight the important points of the session today. So Smriti Singh Chauhan, the first paper presenter, she has spoken about Modi Summit June 2020, where she's discussed India and Australia's relationship. And she's discussed the journey of the relations and contemporary development in Indo-Pacific region, infrastructure and economic bilateral ties. Then we had Dr. Anita Yadav and Shambhavi, who highlighted India's relationship with neighboring countries in the light of Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. They also highlighted the important features of Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. Then we had Arnav Anshuman, who elaborated on India-NEPAL diplomacy. And he discussed on sports as a tool for diplomacy and how countries can use sports events to improve the discord and improve their images. And then we had Sarthak, who spoke about soft power in India's space diplomacy, and how soft power is an intangible element of power, and which is the need for the contemporary world order in place of hard power. So he's highlighted that in this digital age, how state can use space diplomacy as a soft power. Then we had Mr. Tashir Bhatt. He also analyzed soft power and foreign policy towards Afghanistan. So in his paper, he concluded that the need of the hour is that we become a soft power, and then we should also work on becoming a structural power. So we see that, to conclude, I would say that India is definitely taking I'm so sorry, I missed out on Aditi Chakravarti. Aditi Chakravarti elaborated on Islamophobia in India, and she's highlighted that, how the secular ideas can be adopted to basically overcome this pandemic. So rightly put by Ms. Aditi. So now coming back to what we were discussing, I was saying that India is definitely taking a strategic approach towards using its soft power resources to enhance the nation's image abroad. So I think each and every presenter today was wonderful, and I would like to congratulate each and every one of you. I would also take the opportunity to congratulate Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, who's the NICE Director, Nepal, and the organizing committee of NICE. Thank you so much, the NICE committee and Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. You have provided such a wonderful platform to all the young scholars and to showcase their research. Once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to all the scholars who were here today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Distinguished chair, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the 7th session. It is my honor to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of NICE to all who have graced us with their presence and contributed their parts to make this event resounding. First of all, we would like to express our profuse gratitude and sincere thanks to Dr. Anjali for agreeing to chair and moderate the session today. Thank you so much for having us and coming on board with us. Our sincere thanks also goes to all the speakers for being a part of this event and delivering such a comprehensive and convincing presentation. We are really honored to have all the speakers with us today here. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. And finally, I must also mention a deep sense of appreciation for our audience who have participated in the webinar and those who are watching us live on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your valuable time, attention, and for making the session so productive with your questions. We are truly honored to have you all with us this evening, and we hope to stay connected with you in future as well. It has been a pleasure to have you all on board with us. Thank you so much.